everybody. Welcome to the very first episode in our series of talking about childhood cancer from a parent's perspective and even from a family's perspective. I will definitely be bringing my wife in here with me as well as my children at some point to talk about how they feel about it, how it affected them, both from diagnosis up until our daughter and their sister passed away on July 3rd of 2021. I have many great topics that were actually forwarded to me when I brought this up, and I want to start with a few and see how it goes. And if you guys like the episodes, then I will continue to do this. Talking about this is something that I will never shy away from. I do have people that will ask me about my tattoos or ask me about my bracelets or my hats and things like that. And then when I explain what they mean, then they will, a lot of times people will apologize for asking, and please don't ever do that. Talking about this is definitely one of the most important things that we can do, and answering your questions. And the reason that we wear things that talk about it, whether it's the bracelets, whether it's whether I wear JC around my neck, my hat, things like that, it's all meant to bring awareness. It's all meant to spark communication and spark that topic so that we can get more understanding out there. We can get more vision. And giving more vision means we get more support. And that support is going to lead to funding, which is going to lead to better and less toxic treatments in the future, meaning that we're going to have a better future for these kids. And no more families are going to have to go through what we had to go through, or are going to have to sign the types of documents that we had to sign, or that are going to have to hear the words that we heard, make funeral arrangements for their 8-year-old child. These are the things that we're hoping to avoid in the future, we're hoping to eliminate. So from here on out, if you ever see somebody like myself out there, if you see somebody with a ribbon on their shirt or with a hat like this out there, if you see the bracelets, ask. You can be respectful. We actually saw somebody in the store the other day, and she had a shirt on that you definitely could tell had to do with childhood cancer. And we went up. My wife actually went up and asked her about it, and we got an explanation that what you have to do is you've got to get out there. We love to wear this stuff. We love to spark that conversation. So please never be afraid to ask. Never be afraid to put that out there. So going forward, please do that. That's how we spark these conversations. That's how we make a change. So today what I want to talk about, the very first episode here, is I want to talk about how this has affected me as a father and as a husband. We obviously have 2 other daughters. We have a 17-year-old and we have a soon-to-be 15-year-old. And they are very, very important to me. As a matter of fact, having 3 daughters was something that, it'll scare a lot of people to have daughters, but I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I love being a girl dad. I love the new things that I can learn from them as they grow up. I love being there to protect them. I love feeling like I have to protect them. And losing a daughter to this is something that has really affected me to the core, because I was not able to protect her. I was not able to stop the bad things from happening that kept her around longer. And we've had to really hold on to the reality that she was just kind of on loan to us from God, and He had a better and more direct plan for her that she had meant for her. And unfortunately, that wasn't here on earth, and we know that she's doing amazing things. We know that she's with us, and we feel her, and I will talk about that in a later episode. But the reality is, as a father, or as a parent in general, but if I'm going to tell you from my perspective as a dad, that I feel like I have to protect my children, my family. I feel like I have to provide for my family. My wife and I have been a single income family since my oldest was born, so almost 18 years now. I've been the one that has worked 90% of the time. I took a couple of years off when I went to school, and my wife worked it during that time, but we've been a single income family. We've made it work, and it's always been something that's been a good formula for us. But during this time, you see a lot of families that lose income, that lose their jobs, that because they're not able to be there and provide, or they're not able to work because they need to be there to provide for their kids. And, yes, going to work can definitely be a good distraction from everything that's going on. And I did work during my daughter's treatments. When she was going for her treatments in the beginning, I was off for, the hospital stays and things like that. And my job was very understanding, which was fantastic. A lot of jobs are not, and I don't think it's because it's a negative thing on the company. I think it's because you're a worker. You're there to work. They need you to work. If you can't work, then they have to have somebody to do that work. And so it may not be the case all the time, but my job was very understanding, and I was very upfront with them about what was going on. But as a father and as a husband, I've always felt like I needed to provide. I needed to be there. And when your daughter is going through or your child is going through something like this that is very uncontrollable, for me, as a control freak, essentially, I mean, I'll call myself out. This is very hard for me to accept because I can't do anything about it. I can't fix it. I can't just, wave a magic wand or say some witty dad joke and make it go away. We have to find a way to deal with this. We need to have income so that we can continue to pay the bills. We need to have income to pay for treatments and travel. We need to have income so that our other daughters can continue in their activities or their things like that they're going through. So we have to do that, and I have to find a way to make that work. We were very lucky in our family enough that we have saved for quite a while, so we had enough to keep us going. We also had a lot of generosity when our daughter was going through these treatments, both from monetary donations as well as food and gift cards and things like that to help get us through, which is something that you'll notice. It also goes away very fast as soon as your child passes, if that's unfortunate enough to happen, and that kind of support tends to go away, and you tend to be back on your own again, which is, again, talk about that in another episode as well. But I always felt like I did something wrong. I always felt like I did not protect you. I did not keep you safe, and how is this not my fault? And towards the end, in the last couple of weeks of her life, she was starting to lose abilities to speak to us and communicate like she had before. And because of that, it led to a lot of insomnia on her part, and just her brain just wouldn't shut off and would not allow her to sleep and things like that. And what it did was it caused me and my wife, for that matter, to be very, very tired. When we're talking days and days and days with no sleep or very lack of, and it got to the point where I would get frustrated with her. Didn't do anything crazy, but definitely I would raise my voice and I would get frustrated, and you can hear it. And I never meant anything by it. I wasn't mad at her. It was my frustration because of the lack of sleep and the fact that nothing was going right, and my daughter was her body was slowly shutting down, and there was nothing that we could do about it. And I have regretted that. I've regretted that every single day. And we even spoke to a medium, my wife and I, after she passed. And as much as you believe in that, that's fine. For us, it really helped us. It really helped us cope. But we definitely, that was one thing that I always worried about. Is she mad at me? Does she forgive me for being frustrated with her, or not being able to help her, or not being able to fix her? And it was never like that. She, if you believe it, like I said, then she did forgive me, and she knew that I never meant to be angry with her. But as a dad, you're supposed to protect your kids. You're supposed to make sure that nothing ever happens to them. You're supposed to keep them safe. As a dad, as a father, you're supposed to provide. You're supposed to make sure that they have everything they need all the time. You're supposed to make sure your kids have more than you did as a kid, and you're supposed to make sure that nothing ever hurts them. I remember in the hospital when we were first told that it was a tumor. My emotions and my reaction were very blank and very monotone, because it was disbelief. But my first instinct, because our daughter was actually sleeping when they told us this because she was exhausted, my first instinct was just to grab my wife and just hold her. And I didn't react much because I was in shock, and I felt like I needed to be there for her. I needed to make sure she was okay. Because in my heart, I knew we're going to get this fixed. We're going to get it fixed, and she's going to be great. She's going to be awesome. And then it was 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've always said that we sign the consent to have the first surgery on a tissue box because that's all the doctor had when he came in. You got to sign this, and then we'll get this going. And I remember after signing that, and um, I I broke down. That was the first time that I really broke down because I felt like we failed her. I felt like, what did we do wrong? We were trying to rack our brains about what did we do to cause this. And the reality is, you didn't do anything, and we didn't do anything. Um, Childhood cancer, unfortunately, is about 99% shitty luck, and we did everything we could the right way, and unfortunately, these things they just happen sometimes. So that was me being emotional the very first time. Breaking down that very first time was after I signed that consent for her to have the surgery, and this was just to put a drain in her brain. That's when I broke down the first time. But then I had to pick myself back up because I had to get right back into it. I had to then call into work. I had to create an FMLA case. I had to make sure that the bills were going to get paid. We had to update our kids. Like for me, I've never once had an off button. I've never once had the ability to just shut off what's going on around me. I have to be doing something, and I know that I have responsibilities. So as that father figure and as that husband and as that provider, I felt like that was what I had to do. I needed to suck it up. I needed to, pull up the bootstraps, whatever you want to say, and I needed to just stick with um, being that person. Jace was going to be okay. I knew it in my heart. Um, she went through that surgery. We did everything we needed to do. Like she recovered well from every single thing that happened to her in that hospital. We spent 12 days there, from being at home celebrating our daughter's birthday, our oldest daughter's birthday, to rushing to Milwaukee Children's Hospital. We were there for 12 days. We were there so long that there was still snow on the car when we went outside. And it had been sitting there for 12 days in the visitors parking lot because I never moved it. We were hoping it was going to start. We didn't even tell our other kids that we were coming home on that day. They were going to release us. We went over to our daughter's school and we surprised them coming home. Um, and Jace was over it at that point. She actually just wanted to go home. She didn't want to be at the school, and it wasn't because she didn't love it being there, but she just wanted to go home, which is understandable. We had spent 12 days away from home. They did come out and visit us a couple days after, but it was tough. Um, but it was also on me, or I took the responsibility of really keeping everybody updated through Facebook and through Messenger and phone calls and things like that. I did everything I could to keep the world updated on what was going on with JC, and at the same time, creating this hashtag, creating a movement to try to make a difference and try to explore and find. I was finding people to outreach to. I was finding people to talk to. People were reaching out to us. That's where we met our first real friend and real confidant in that hospital setting. Actually, right after we got home, was another little girl that had the exact same type of cancer as JC. She's a little bit younger, and we basically befriended this couple, and it just turned into something where we were there for them and they were there for us. And when our daughter was up, their daughter was down, and it just kind of became that process. And then as dads, we could talk back and forth and kind of open up to each other in a way that maybe we didn't feel comfortable talking to our wives, or for me as a personal person, or from what I do, I don't talk about feelings a lot with my wife or with that, because I always feel like I'm overshadowing what she's going through. I will from time to time have really bad days, and she can tell, and then I will tell her what's going on. But I always stop and think that you and I are kind of going through the same thing. We saw the same things. We heard the same things. She had a different connection with JC than I did, and I had a connection with her that was a little bit different because I was in the hospital with her for the 5 days, 6 days, for the 2 months, for all the surgeries, for all of the what are the chemos. I was there for her. My wife was there for most of the radiations, and I was there for some of them. And any of that stuff, so it gave us different perspectives. But I try not to open up to her about those things, not because I don't feel like she deserves to know or deserves to understand, but I always feel like I'm overshadowing. So, my advice to you, and something else that I'll talk about in a later episode as well, is how a marriage can be made to work through all of this when the success rate for marriages going through something like this is very, very low. Um, we were very lucky, and I can tell you that there were some times that, I talked to her the other day, and I think I'll bring her on for that episode, that it was shaky, and it was definitely a question as to whether or not we were going to make it. But my advice is be open. Be open and talk to your spouse, to your partner, about these things. You are going through the same things, but you are going to feel them. I felt them differently than my wife did. And I think it's really good to get that out there and to have an open dialogue um, about that. Now, like I said, as a father and as a dad, I felt like I had to be that lead role. I had to make the decisions. I had to be the one that didn't sleep. I had to be the one that had to work. I had to bring in the paycheck. I had to provide. That was me. I was the provider, and I was supposed to be the protector. And I felt like I failed in those aspects, and sometimes. And unfortunately, that can be the downfall of a lot of people, is to feel that failure. But at the same time, I know that we did everything we could with the tools that we had to provide our daughter with the best treatment possible. And going back, are there things that we could change or we would change? There may be some, absolutely. If we knew now or we knew then what we know now, type of thing, then I'd say, yeah, absolutely. There's some things we would do differently or maybe research differently. But does it guarantee a different output? No. So in closing, I say that as a father, as a parent, as a husband, yes, I felt like there was I shouldered the weight of so much, but I shouldered that weight on my own. I didn't shoulder that weight because my wife didn't shoulder it or my kids didn't, my family, my friends. I shouldered it because I felt like I had to. And that's just me. That's just me as a person, and I feel like that's just who I am. And that may be how a lot of people are. I think as fathers, as husbands, as men in general, this just a general perspective is that I think that we tend to shoulder it because we feel like we have to, and we feel like we're meant to do that, not because it's the way it's supposed to be, just because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. So I hope that this gives you a little insight into our life, and I definitely want to continue these series. You just have to let me know if it's something that I should keep going with. I have plenty of topics to talk about, and I want to be able to speak to you. So thank you very much, and I hope you come back and hear some more. Welcome, everybody, to the Childhood Cancer Perspective podcast. This week I wanted to talk about something that was very personal to myself and to our faith as we were going through this journey with our daughter JC as she was diagnosed with brain cancer. We were at church this past weekend, and it brought me back to a time when I asked my daughters a very specific question as we were coming up on the days and maybe even a week prior to our daughter passing. I asked specifically, how would your relationship change with God? Or would you think anything different of God? Keep in mind that my daughters all started in preschool and went all the way up, our two oldest through 8th grade, JC through 2nd grade, all in Catholic private school. Their faith has always been very centered, and they're very open about God. And actually, our daughter right now is on a mission trip for her church. I've never been a very religious person growing up. We did go to church as kids, basically on holidays, and I believe in God. I believe in heaven. I believe in hell. I believe in the afterlife. I do believe that there are angels among us. I do believe that our daughter is part of that group. I believe that she was meant to carry wings and meant to carry that weight on her shoulders, and I think she does a very good job. But this question was something that was brought back during a church sermon that we heard this weekend, and a lot of it had to do with being mad at God or being done with praying, giving up on yourself and giving up on prayer, giving up on hope because of everything that's going on in your life. Specifically for us, it was pediatric cancer. It was our daughter being diagnosed with cancer, and you questioning things right away. I know that I did. Um, why would something like this happen to a child? How could God let this happen to a child? And we focused, I think, a lot on that and trying to find a balance between believing in faith, believing in prayer, and at the same time understanding that it was okay to question. It was okay to be angry. And that took a long time to really accept or really um, be okay with. Now, with that question that I asked both of my daughters, I don't remember specifically what they said to me, but I do remember them both saying to me that yes, they would question things, or um, they would have some conversations with God. They've put a lot of their lives, like I said, they put their lives from preschool through 8th grade into being in a Catholic school, and to praying every single day, and to understanding Scripture, and going to church, and receiving the Lord in the way that they did, and bringing it home, and really showing it in the way that they lived their day-to-day lives. And so I thought that it was very much an appropriate question for me to ask, because I didn't know how they would truly feel, being as centered around their faith as they were. They both did say that they would have some questions, and I thought that was okay. And I said, that's okay. It's okay for you to be mad at God. It's okay for you to question his motives, or question why something like this would happen to your baby sister, to a family member, to a child at all. And it was okay for that. And to be honest, our girls don't talk a lot about everything that happened, and they don't talk a lot about these types of situations. As a father, as a parent, and I know for my wife as well, we kind of retain a lot of these things, and we talk to each other about it. We do try to talk to our kids about everything that happened, but they don't want JC to be known just as a child with cancer, just as their sister that had cancer. They have so much more that they want to share about who she was. And in a future episode, I think that I will have both of my daughters kind of hijack the podcast and just tell you about JC as a sister, and how they remember her without the cancer involved, because she was truly so much more than that. It's just that this was a mission that I think she was sent here to give to us. Going through this journey, or shit show, as my wife would call it, we definitely had a lot of, I know that I had a lot of conversations with myself, and about faith, about giving up, about why, about, is there a God? Is there a Christ? When you think about everything that we went through, and everything that she went through, it's really hard to gauge if there's a higher power that is there controlling everything. Why would they control this and have this physically happen to somebody? And it was something that was said at her funeral by our pastor that really brought me to an acceptance point of why she's not here anymore. Now, I will be honest, I will never truly accept that my daughter's not here. I will never truly accept that she had anywhere more important to be than right here by our side, growing up and getting married and having kids, and making her own mistakes in life. I will never accept that. But I'm at an understanding with why she's not here, because of what was said at her funeral, which was when she was brought to heaven's gates and was asked, "Are you ready to enter?" And she said, "But Lord, I am only 8 years old. I only had a short time here. I'm not ready to enter." And the Lord said to her, "But look what you've done in those 8 years. Look what you've accomplished, what you've created." She has touched so many people in her short 8 years, both close to us and worldwide, that people that we've never even met that reached out to us, that read her story, that understood what she was going through, and we've made so many connections because of her. She was sent here as a gift to us, to give us a mission in life, to advocate and fight for kids that don't have a voice. And then she was taken back to heaven as an angel to complete her mission there, which is to care for all the children that didn't have a chance to grow up on this earth. That's her mission. After she gave us that, we've now run with it full force, which is why I'm doing this, which is why I'm fighting in Congress, which is why we have our organization sending care packages to children, which is why we host events to raise money for research. It's all because of her. Yes, she was so much more than a child with cancer. She was a visionary, and she was an angel way before we knew it. We were only given 8 short years with her, but those 8 short years are a lifetime of things that we will be able to accomplish and we will be able to pass on to other children and other families because of her. So because of that, I accepted that she wasn't here because she had a higher mission. And that mission still runs deep in our family. It runs deep through me and our organization and everything we do. Now, going through this mission, like I said, I had a lot of questions. Or going through this journey, I had a lot of questions for God. And especially after she passed, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of, I don't want to say hatred, but I had a lot of animosity towards someone that could take a child from me before I had this realization and before we had her funeral and those words were spoken. I used to listen to a lot of music going through this because it helped me, and I still do. But there was one song in particular that really hit home to me right before she passed and then after she passed. And I won't say the song because I don't have copyrights and I don't feel like having any issues there. But really, the basis of it is good people having really bad things happening to them. And the singer of the song, or the center point, saying, "Where's your God? Where is your God now, letting all these things happen to you?" And that song hit me so close to home, and I would play it louder than the windows could take it in my car, and I would scream it, and I would cry and break down, because that was my escape, was music. But it also hit me so close to home because I felt like, yeah, where is God? Why am I feeling this way? Why is our family feeling this way? Why are we allowed to feel this way? Why is there so much suffering in the world just with children alone? Pediatric cancer is our mission. Pediatric cancer awareness, pediatric cancer funding, that's our mission. That's what we're here to create, is to that vision and that change in this world so that these children don't have to go through these battles, that they don't have to fight as hard as they fight, and they don't have to show how strong they are, even though we know they are. Part of all of that is accepting that there's a God, and he had a greater mission for our daughter. Once again, I can never accept that there's a greater place on this earth that our children should be but right here next to us. But I've accepted to a point that she had a greater mission. She was sent here as a loan to us from God to share that mission, to share that vision, to instill that in us, and for us to go forth and spread that word of hers and spread that light, spread that sunshine, just like her middle name, and spread it to so many people. And I know, because I've felt it and I've heard it, that we're making a difference. This podcast is just a way for me to speak from the heart and to get all the words out there in the open that I feel every single day. Whether it's a 15-minute episode or a 30-minute episode, I'm going to put it out there because I've got a lot to say. And what we see as parents, and this is who I want to connect with, what we see as parents from this side, from the side where you're taking your child to the doctor, you're taking them to the hospital, you're watching them go through tests, you're watching their hair fall out, you're watching their appetite go away, you're watching them change, their bodies change, but their personalities don't change. Their personalities are the same because they're the same people. Physically, they're not. And emotionally, maybe they're not. But physically, they are spiritually and as a personality, they're the same people. And they deserve for us to get their stories out there. And they deserve for us to talk about them every single day. So this episode was centered around a question. And so I want to tell you, yes, I was very angry at God when JC passed. I was very angry and mad and had given up on any type of faith and had given up on any type of prayer because I prayed hard. I prayed hard and I prayed loud, and you can go back and watch videos of me on our social media of me asking for prayers, of me asking for people to come together and wish and for a miracle to happen for JC. And it didn't happen. Now she won her battle because she's no longer in pain and she's in heaven now. And she didn't lose anything. We lost a physical daughter, but we gained a superior angel that we have with us every single day. God and I may never be on the same page, and God and my daughters and my wife may never be on the same page. But I know that she is safe now, and I know she is with him, and I know that she is doing so much for all these other children that are passing, all these other children that are gaining their wings. I know she is welcoming them with open arms. And I know she is here with us every single day. And she lets us know. She doesn't let us know every day, but she lets us know she's here. I know she's busy. Questioning God or questioning your faith is okay. I want to say that one more time, and I want everybody listening to understand that 100%. When you're going through a battle like this, or you're watching your child go through a battle, it is okay to be mad at God. It is okay to question your faith. It is okay to question how something like this could happen to a child. It is okay to not go to church, to confront your pastor and say, I don't believe anymore. It is okay to stop praying because you don't think it works. But it's also okay to accept that while it may not have happened the way that you wished it would have happened, that it did. And from here, we will never move on. We will always move forward. We will move forward with the mission that JC left behind for us. We will move forward with the mission that all these children have left behind for us. And we will every single day pray that while these children pass and these children have to fight, that they will do it peacefully and that they won't be in pain and that they will be able to live their lives as a whole person again in heaven. So in closing, I just want to say thank you guys so much for subscribing, for listening, to sharing the podcast. This is a shorter episode. I'm going to put out more. I've got about 30 listed that I'm going to do. If you have any ideas or things you would like me to talk about as a parent that has watched their child go through this battle, as a parent that has other children, as a parent that our marriage stayed together and you want us to talk about things, please put it in the comments. Message me, find a way, and I will get these episodes out. I want to thank you all so much. And remember, it is okay to not be okay. Have a good day.